We're good to go.
Good evening and welcome to the Finance and Claims Committee meeting of the Common Council for today, Thursday, September 14th, 2023 at 7:04 p.m. We'll start with the roll call. We have Councilmember Diana Revolus, Councilmember Ed Camacho, and myself, Councilmember Greg Burnett. At the current moment, we do not have a quorum. Unless that changes and additional finance members join the meeting. So with that, moving on to the next item in the agenda, which is public participation. We did not receive any emails. Is there any member of the public that has signed in that wishes to speak? If you are, please raise your hand electronically and we'll add you to the meeting to speak. I don't see any attendees in the room. So we will continue on and I'll close public participation at this point. Because we do not have a quorum, we will suspend approving the minutes of August 10th, 2023. And our tax collector is not on as of yet, so we'll keep moving forward, which brings us to the tax assessor update on the reval process and report on the elderly tax relief program. Over to you, Paul Gorman, our interim tax assessor.
Good evening, everybody. How is everyone today?
Doing well.
As far as the reval goes, as you can see from the agenda that was sent out, the reval has entered into the what I like to call the valuation phase. The boots on the ground, knock on the doors at every house and every building has been completed. The next phase is now they're building their valuation model so that the properties can be properly valued for release of the new values at the end of the year. The project manager is still reviewing sales and will be doing so up until the 10/1 cutoff. If he doesn't feel as though that he has enough sales at that time, he may extend the time for reviewing sales while he continues to create his model. That's all talking about on the residential side of things. The commercial appraiser, John Valente, he is going through all the income and expense data that has been entered into the system from the people who did file their online filings by the June 1st deadline. We've recently sent out another mailing to all the people that didn't file, asking them to file, explaining to them how important this information is to have a fair and accurate reval. So we're hoping over the course of the next couple of weeks to maybe gain some more information on that front. But everything's on track. It's looking good. And probably sometime around the meeting that we have in November, we'll probably be able to be starting to talk about actual numbers.
Are there any questions for Paul? The one question I have is, which I raised at the last meeting, do we have any further update on education to the Norwalk residents about the reval? And
yes,
the bills that they're receiving in the mail? The statements, I should say, yes.
Right, the statements are going to be in December, and yes, the Vision is putting together and working, they're working with, I referred them to Michelle to discuss how they think it would be best to get the information out. They're thinking about possibly doing training, like putting out videos for people to watch, maybe have a couple of live sessions. Just live sessions are going to be tough to control, so they're trying to figure out a best practice, but there is going to be training so that, or not, I shouldn't say training, education, so that the people know what it is that they're receiving in the mail and why.
And do we have a timing on that? Because people are receiving they're receiving their statements now. I know personally, I just
No,
received mine in the
no,
mail today.
that's a data mailer. That's not a statement of what your new reval number is. The education, I thought, was more supposed to be geared towards explaining to people what reval is and what the end of the year statement means when the reval numbers are disclosed. What people are getting now is it's a data mailer that says, hey, this is everything that we know about or this is everything we think we know about your house. Please make corrections and send it back to us if there is any inaccuracies. And that's been going, as far as I know, very smoothly. I mean, every once in a while, people call in questioning whether or not it's a valid request for information. They're fearful that people are, trying to do some sort of a scam through the mail. But my understanding was that the training that was in the contract was all about education towards people understanding the notices that go out at the end of the year to explain their new values.
I'll defer to our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Dakowitz. Do you have any further information on the training that's scheduled to take place?
No, I think earlier in the process, what Paul referred to as the data collection, that's when the consultants that we've used had boots on the ground, people were coming around, knocking on doors, and the public was fearful. Who are these people? Is this legitimate? And I think we addressed that pretty thoroughly. People had uniforms, they had identifying cards, and we sent out information to reduce the sense of alarm by the public. This is a legitimate data collection effort. They were doing it, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, neighborhood by neighborhood. You don't want to send out information to all the neighborhoods in advance. But let's say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're coming to your neighborhood. People are coming, they have a certain color vehicle or a sign, and that they are legitimate. I think now that we're looking at the valuation of properties, Paul and our consultants are looking at educating the public as to what a revaluation is, how it's performed, and what the numbers mean. And that's where they're looking at doing either videos or maybe a live session where they explain, we get property values based on residential. We get, generally it's by comparable values of sales of homes in the area. We understand your home is different from this home, and this is how we got the valuation, and that valuation will be used to calculate your tax bill the next June when we have our first billings. Paul, did I say that right?
Henry got it exactly right. And I'll just elaborate one more step as to something I said before, that the reval company is a little fearful of doing a live session only because a live session, as I know just from working counters for the past 20 years, people are very focused on about their house, and what they're fearful of is that you might maybe have them set up in the council chambers to do a live feed meeting so that anybody that wants to log in can, but then all of a sudden there's going to be hundreds of hands raised, and all they want to do is talk about their house, not the overall process. That's why they're thinking that a series of videos that could be put on our website that could be accessed by anybody based on subject matter of what they're looking for. They could click on it and watch it at their leisure. And if they have questions, we could put hey, if you have any questions, feel free to write an email to this place, or that place, and get an answer within 24 to 48 hours.
Just a comment, in the past, we've held live educational sessions in the concert hall with the previous vendor, and anyone was open to attend. So we have done live educational sessions that worked. So if
Okay.
they're saying they're concerned about that, then we have history that we've conducted it that way here in Norwalk. Councilmember Diana Revolus.
Thank you, Chair. Burnett, you reiterated something. I was just gonna say that, like, I think it's been done in the past, but B, especially if it was like, a live, but a Zoom thing, like, I know live means in person, but let's just say if it was a Zoom thing, right? You can equate it or orchestrate it that it's answering general questions. And then, like you said, wrap people back to, like, if you have additional questions pertaining to your direct property, please address or send to dot, 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 dot. I was just gonna follow, that's literally what I was just gonna transcribe. That I think that the live has been done already. I think just the outright information of the why we're doing this and of just the whys and individual responses could just be had at later times. I don't think it should be delayed or held up just because of the concern of people's individual questions, but the overall need for understanding and education for the structure and just overall in politics, right? But like, I just think don't wrap away from doing a live educational scenario for the community because of concerns with this individual,
Okay.
with concern of individual concerns, if that makes sense.
When Gary, the project manager, gets back on Monday from vacation, I will mention to him that you guys would very much like to see live, at least a couple of live meetings as well as posted videos, and I'll make sure that it happens.
And live, if it's done on Zoom, can be pre-recorded, posted videos too. You see what I'm saying? So you kind of can hit both situations to narrate what we're talking about and also alleviate the problems you think may happen. So that's all. That's it.
And Paul, I would just add that if anyone does raise an issue about their personal property, we might want to emphasize privacy, that this is a public forum. We don't want to divulge personal information on particular properties, and they should privately contact your office or whoever would be the right people to respond. And that way we accommodate the education, and at the same time, we don't get lost in the details of many people's personal details.
Sure.
Chair, I'm so sorry to just jump in. I think
No problem.
Dakowitz, I think that's a very smart answer, because to be quite honest, people's individual privacy might be more so why people wouldn't talk up. And then just reiterating, because of private concerns and issues, we understand that we'll individually talk to people, but let's keep this on a certain forum. So I think privacy for people's not want of exposing their own individual situations would keep people more at bay to not do this. So I just thought that was a great point, Mr. Dakowitz.
Great. If it's not too much to ask, can we get an outline of this educational rollout plan before the next finance meeting?
Sure.
So that we can share it with the entire council so they're aware of what education is coming down the line over the course of the next X number of months?
Yeah, I'll send Gary an email as soon as once I get off here. I'll send him an email so that it's sitting in his inbox when he comes back on Monday.
Great, thank you. So with that, let's shift over to the elderly tax relief program update.
Okay. And so I sent Greg and Henry, I sent you guys a little while ago the updated version of the memo that everybody has in the agenda that just had the updated quartiles for the income. I wasn't able to draw those out quickly enough to make the initial agenda. But based on all the numbers and comparing it to last year's, the program seems to be working. It seems like we're hitting the right target audiences. We didn't have anybody that was above the maximum amount this year for like being priced out of the excuse me, I'm sorry, for the income limits. The income limits that we have set for the program seem to be working well we haven't received, over the course of the time that I've been here, we haven't had any people complaining that, hey, the program's not rich enough, it's not hitting enough people. And we're getting new applications every year. We're losing people every year because people sell their houses or unfortunately pass away. But overall, the program seems to be running well, and I don't think that there's any real tweaks that need to be made, other than if in the future someone felt it was necessary to potentially up the income levels, you know, consistently with how the state ups their income levels. So yeah, that's the one with the updated quartiles.
So you want to walk us through this? What is this? I mean, compared to last year, I mean, is this up, down, the same?
It's about the same as far as levels of participation. It's about the same for the averages on the quartiles. It usually stays pretty consistent because you have a lot of rollovers, and it's the same people over and over and over again. So you're really not going to have your averages jumping great distances because there's so many people on the program. If one new person comes on that's at $75,000 income, they're not going to jump that average on the fourth quartile all that much. We only had, let's see, we had 715 people on the state. We had 424 people that were on the town only, which means that their income was above 49,100. Because that's the state limit. The state limit for giving anything to somebody is if you make more than 49,100, you're not eligible for the state level benefit. But for
So is that up from last year? Do we add more people or?
no, we basically have the same amount of people as last year. The amount of people we lost, we gained. We had maybe, I'm trying to see if there were the new applicants is on here, and I don't think it was one of the questions that was on here. Hold on one second. How do I get back to my desktop from the share? There we go. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so we had total initial applicants last year was 153. The total for this year was 140. And the total people on the program last year was in the same general range, right around the same 1139.
Councilmember Diana Revelous, you have your hand up. You have a question?
I'm
Diana?
sorry, my Wi-Fi is just acting up.
Oh, do you have a question?
Owners that are deceased or passed, do you have information on how often those properties actually get sold or stay within the family and somebody just takes over that? Just wondering, that's kind of just for me, how long are we keeping people in Norwalk in their properties, especially when someone deceased, and what does that look like for us in the correlation of people leaving the property and this not only because of the fact that we have space in place that properties end up being taken for development. That's why I'm asking this. Do we have any place that just numbers how many homes, especially when one is deceased, that still stay with a resident in Norwalk?
Let me just make sure I'm understanding the question. So
Sorry
you have
if
an
I said that
elderly,
weird.
you have an elderly that's on the program, they pass away during the course of the year. And you're wondering how many of those homes of those elderly that pass sell to somebody else or
Or
with their-
stay. Yes, sir. You got me. Thank you.
I could probably find that out, but it's not something that's readily available. We would basically have to do basically like a title search for all the sales of the elderly. It's not like a field that we keep track of.
Okay,
So,
I won't kill you with that. It'll be great to know that, but if we could, maybe later if later, like one
yeah,
time and put it,
the person, luckily, the person who does my elderly benefits is also my person who does the processing my transfers. And she's
gotcha.
pretty sharp, so I'll talk to her about it on Monday because she's off tomorrow.
Okay,
And I'll see what we can do about getting a report for you.
I
Because
appreciate that.
that's interesting.
Thank you. I'm glad you see it the way I see it.
But
I think
just
it would be interesting.
But
Would
just
be
know
interesting.
that even if the person who took over, so let's just say it's grandma that's 85 years
Mhm.
old and she passes away,
Yeah,
and then the person who takes over is a family member who is also eligible age-wise, they wouldn't be eligible to stay on the program right away because they have to be the owner of the property for 1 year and it has to be where they live. So I can tell you, none of them are going to be retained on the program for that year. But I'll endeavor to try to find out
and
who at least held on to their house.
okay, in particular that, yes, and then maybe that conversation be had of how then can we, if that's even possible, can we help families transition or continue in something like that? I
That,
don't know if that's ever possible or down the line, but just wondering someone who's on an unexpected death. I
That-
do take over this home, but may need the same supports. In a year, I could end up losing my house or become greatly in debt because I don't have the same support the original owner had. So just wondering if, again, just side later things that we could talk about, but
yeah,
just put it as a point.
that's a statute question that we would have to
Yes.
probably refer to legal.
Okay, understood. Yeah, so thank you. I'll
You're welcome.
hear from you Monday.
Any other questions?
So is there anything in this update that specifically you want to highlight? And at least for me, I'm more focused on the comparison from last year or previous years. Are we moving in the right direction? Are we increasing the number of elderly residents that are benefiting from this program? Just seeing the numbers as they are, it's tough to compare the value of the program if you don't have something to compare it to. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. And I would say I mean, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to try to get a lot more people on the program, the only way you're going to get a lot more people on it is one, in my opinion, one of two ways. One would be we would advertise it a lot better, because there's still a lot of people that say, oh, I didn't even know that the city had it. I mean, the other side of it is there's people that are on the program that don't even realize they're on the program, and they come in to apply thinking it's the first time and they have it. The only other way to attack it to be able to get even more on, outside of getting the word out better, would be to change the income limits. If you wanted to hit more people, but you got to have, I mean, right now we've got a maximum income of 76,500. That's a pretty generous benefit. You have to start playing with the idea of at what level do you need to stop giving, because it's a decent wage for a person to be able to support themselves. And I'm not saying I know everybody's financial situation, but at 76.5, that's one of the healthier break points that I've seen in the 3 towns that I've worked in. I could try to, I think on our assessor's website, we may have a report that shows other towns' elderly benefit programs, and I can try to gather some information to then forward to the committee to see what other towns are doing, just so you can see if we're in line with what other cities and towns are doing.
Would you be able to do that to towns that are like comparative to us? Like, for example, okay, Stanford and Stonio, but not like Darien. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah, no,
comparative to know.
No, I would try to stay with cities, but cities that are like, I wouldn't want to compare us necessarily to Bridgeport, because even though Bridgeport's a city, it's a completely different socioeconomic situation there than it is here. So we'd have to pick and choose, but I could put something together.
Okay, is there anything else on this page you want to highlight
No,
that
I
we should
think,
know about?
no, I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, like it said on Bill's letter last year, based on the previous targets, things seem to be working well. I mean, we're getting to a lot of people. I mean, we have 2,300 people on the program. I think that's a pretty decent chunk. I would like to maybe see, maybe next year, maybe we can do some sort, what Trumbull, where I live, Trumbull, and I used to work there for several years. What they have done in the past is they have a pamphlet that goes out with the July bills. And I don't know if we could do that here or not, but they put a pamphlet out from the first select person that's like a highlight of a whole bunch of different things. And one of them is usually at least 2 of the flaps out of the 6 is focused on telling everybody about the elderly homeowners program and what the dates are and what it's all about. So that could be a way to get it advertised out to more people, at least the people who get tax bills.
You just mentioned that we have 20, what was that number? 2,300?
About
people,
2,300, yeah,
residents?
it's about double what you.
But I don't see that anywhere in this report.
No, because this is based on the letter that was sent to me. I filled it in with the new numbers based on the 2022 grand list participants. The 2021 letter, that was the letter from last year, because everything's a 2-year rollover period, or not rollover, but reapplication period. So this year was 1,139 people of either mostly renewals and a few new. And then next year it'll be the second half. Basically, there's 2 halves. If we could find the letter, if I could get back to my email again, who's ever sharing the screen, if they could let me out again for a second. Let me see if I can find the original letter. Give me 1 second, please. That's an agenda.
Paul, maybe you can follow up after the meeting and.
Yeah, well, I mean, let me ask, does there anybody have handy, because I just can't seem to find it, the letter that was sent from last year? Chitsame, do you by any chance have it handy? I just can't find it in my email.
Well, as Mr. Dacquis indicated, you can follow up afterwards, but I think
Okay.
Hopefully you understand the essence. We're trying to understand some level of comparison, even if it's from as 2 years ago to where we're at now, Are we helping the residents? And in what way are we helping? Are we increasing the number of participants? You know, so some level of comparison as opposed to just a snapshot as to where we are today. It doesn't give any references to, are we increasing? Are we improving? Do you understand the essence of that
Yeah,
question?
no, I understand. Like I said, when the letter was sent to me, I thought the point was to just get the information that was on the letter updated. But if you want a comparison, I'll show you last year's numbers, this year's numbers, and I can probably project out what the following year's numbers are going to be without new applicants.
That would be helpful. Okay, going back into the agenda, we'll go to items 5, 6, and 7, which is a report from the tax collector.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. The first part of the report, if it's all right with you, would be to address the claims. We do have this month a special request that we have not had in some time, but this is a special request due to the dollar amount of the refund. It's in excess of $17,000, and it is for payments that were on the 2019 and 2020 grant lists that were paid by a management company for 9 Mott Avenue, which is an office building. And there were 8 units that had duplicate payments made in January 2021 and in July of 2021. And we need to refund those duplicate payments. They range from just over $1,000 to about $1,200.
Excuse me, Lisa, does this require a vote?
It does, yes.
There's no quorum tonight.
Oh, okay.
Even though we do not have a quorum tonight, as chair, I will advance this item to the full common council on Tuesday, September 26th, for the full council to review it and vote at that time.
Thank you. Did you need any additional information from me?
No.
I did send, okay, Henry, I did send Chairman Burnett a recap of this refund, so he would have it for their caucus.
I'm just trying to get protocol right. You know,
Yes.
Again, you have much more expertise, and I know if we don't have a quorum, we can't take votes. And I just didn't want you to go on to a lengthy explanation and then not have a vote.
Gotcha. So then you'll just pass it forward.
Right, this will advance to the full council meeting on Tuesday, September 26th,
Understood.
and we'll vote to review and approve this claim which is over $10,000 at that time.
Okay.
So now, yeah, we can move to
Go
the
ahead.
narrative now.
Yes, the narratives, I had given a preliminary narrative because the Board of Estimate was meeting earlier in the week, and I did not have our month of August closed, so I wrote a new one tonight because we were able to close the month of August 2023. And I'm giving you 2 separate spreadsheets for the month of August. One is for the current year, and the other is concluding the 60 days of collections on the immediately prior grant list, which our external auditors need for our audit. And for the current levy, through the month of August, we were at 53.71% of the current levy. For the immediately prior fiscal year, with the month of August, we hit 99.03%. That was still down a bit from last year, but we did hit 99%, which is satisfying to us. So I draw your attention to that. The first narrative talked a little bit about some of the other things that we're doing at this time of year. Normally our delinquent notices are out. Because of that extended motor vehicle collection period, we did not send delinquent notices for motor vehicle. we did send for real estate and for business personal property. Those went out last week at the same time as that motor vehicle mailing. And you did ask me a lot of questions last month about that mailing. I know Paul is still on the call as well, and Henry is on the call. We did a significant amount of work on that mailing with our vendor. That mailing did go out on September 8th. And you were concerned that the taxpayers would have 30 days to pay. They do. It is going to be October 10th is the last day on which to pay that adjusted billing. And it did turn out that there were some individuals, as we predicted, that did owe more, and there were some that did owe less. The ones that did owe more, they were basically under assessed with the initial billing. They're getting a bill. The ones that owe less are getting a statement that shows they have a credit due to them. They will either, if they choose to do nothing, they will receive that credit on their July 2024 motor vehicle bill on the same vehicle. If they would prefer to get a refund, we also sent them a refund form. They can send that form back and we will refund them their money. So that's sort of it in a nutshell, but there's a little bit more detail in the narrative, in the second narrative, the one that I sent you today. So it's been kind of a busy time between getting those mailings out. Our collection agency also did a mailing. I gave you a recap on their activity because we've been with them for 9 months now. So we collected more than $700,000 on suspended motor vehicle accounts since December of last year, which I thought was excellent. You know, we're going to start working on our tax sale probably next month, and then it'll be time to bill the second installment. So I'm glad to answer any questions that you have, or if you wanted to look over those narratives and ask me any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Well, my first and foremost, I wanted to congratulate you and your team for once again reaching the 99%. We've become somewhat familiar with that number each and every year, so I'm to see that we reached that that threshold, which is great. So again, thank you for all your efforts in doing that. Yes, understand completely that it's been a busy time. I have no further questions on the narrative. I don't know if Councilmember Revelous has any questions, but we will review it in more detail, knowing that we just received it, and I'll instruct the council members if they have any questions to direct them to your attention.
Thank you. And I won't
Right.
be here next month. I'm on vacation the first 2 weeks of October, so I won't be here next month. But I'll see you again after that, God willing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good vacation.
Thank you. I need it.
Definite. 99%. Definite.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, moving along in the agenda, we'll move to item 10. We'll postpone the report 9 of Oak Hills to next month. So that brings us to item 10, which is again, we do not have a quorum, so we won't be voting on it, but I will read the request. It's a request, a special capital appropriation amount of $10,727.32 to increase the authorization for account noted under the fire department vehicles. This capital appropriation shall be funded through $10,727.32 of authorized but unissued general obligation bonds or notes of the city. The $10,727.32 of bonds or notes of the city shall be issued in accordance with the provisions and set forth in the original bond resolutions. that authorize the issuance of the bonds or notes of the city for project account number as noted. And we have our fire chief, Gino Gatto, with us to review the essence of this request.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Basically, this is a price increase that Ford had or put into effect. Last year, we put in for $75,000 for 2 Ford Rangers to replace some vehicles in the fire marshal's office. At the time, the money was enough, but since then, the cost jumped up $7,627. We also need another $3,100 to put bed covers in and to do emergency lighting in each vehicle. So that's why I'm asking for the $10,727. I do want to, one thing I don't understand about the bond issues, because we're transferring money from the mobile radio account into this account. So it's not really new money. I don't know, maybe if Tom could explain it better than me. Nobody there.
I think that's a language that we put in so that, our bond counsel had recommended in order for us to make that transfer. So we have to, when we go out to issue bond, we look at what's authorized and on issue. And in order to increase for a different project, we need to make sure that we have that language in here to deauthorize for the project that we're moving the funds from.
Okay, so we are taking money from the mobile radio account.
It's a budget item, budget line that we'll be moving.
Okay.
Yeah, Chief, this is Tom. I'm on.
Tom.
So it's just the mechanics of it are a little bit different on the capital side than they are on the operating side. So this is similar to what we would go through with a regular operating budget transfer, which is just on the BET side. But when we transition over to the capital side, it requires a few more approvals through councils and committees, and the language is a little bit different, but it's a very similar process.
Okay.
And Chief, you'll see item 11 on the agenda is requesting the deauthorization from the mobile radio upgrade. So
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
Maybe that should come first, really. Technically, we can't fund you until that's defunded, but the concept is we have areas that have budget excess that are not going to be spent. You have a need. If we didn't make this transfer, we'd have to wait to the end of next year's capital budget process. And especially, we've worked with you now for over a year on those price increases on vehicles, both you and Chief Walsh. And with the impending auto labor strikes against the auto companies, I could think it's only going to get worse. So I'm glad we have this process so you could get your materials as quickly as possible. And then we can see what we're up against going forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
okay, so with that, let me ask Diane, Councilmember Revelous, do you have any questions? I have no questions.
No, I don't either.
Okay, so with that, Chief, we will move item 10 and 11 forward to the full council for review and approval at the next council meeting on Tuesday, September 26th.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
That brings us to the final item on the agenda, which is item 12, which is authorizing the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into agreement with Andrews Technology UKG for a time and attendance system migration project not to exceed $225,025 approved in the capital budget and the capital budget numbers as noted. And we have our comptroller, Chitzame Lamb, to cover this item.
You're on.
You're muted.
Thank you so much. Just want to start with that, you know, the city and the Norwalk Public School, we use the same time and attendance program. And we've been with this vendor, Andrew Technology, for over 10 years. Right now, we currently have 65 clocks in various locations throughout the city. Majority of them are at the Board of Education, at the schools, and we have some that are in various city buildings. Usually these clocks last about 5 to 8 years. So we're at that stage where our clocks their lifespan is come due. So we put in our fiscal year 24 capital budget to replace all these time clocks. That gave us kind of an opportunity to kind of look at our current system. And in the earlier this year, what we did was we went to RFP to see what other time system are out there, and we work with our purchasing department. When we received the proposal back, we didn't realize that the cost was so much more than we had anticipated and what we had budgeted. So we kind of put a hold on the RFP. We didn't continue with that. Then our current vendor came to us to say, you know, we're currently, we were bought out by UKG, which is a global time and attendance system. And they said eventually they will need to migrate us to this new time clocks. Right now we're with Novatime, and we know that our time clocks are going to be obsolete. So this really gave us an opportunity to, you know, be migrating to a more robust type of time clock, but with our current vendor that we still utilize. They know our current rules and systems. So I would think like with this migration, it'll be more of a streamline because they already know what our rules are in place. So when we go migrate to this new time clock, they're there to support us all the way through. And we also, you know, lucked out on the implementation cost, just because we are our current vendor of them, that they want to retain us, and they want to make sure that, you know, we continue the service with them, that they're waiving that implementation cost. So with that, you know, I like to bring this item forward to get the approval for a 5-year contract with our current vendor for the migration from our Novatime time clock to this UKG time clock.
Thank you. You said this is a 5-year contract. Is this the 225,000? Is that the total amount for the 5-year contract, or is there additional amounts each year that will be added on?
The 225,000 is the initial implementation cost, including mostly it's the purchase of the new clock itself. We currently do pay maintenance fee each year, which is around 70,000, and then we also pay a monthly user fee. So the more user we have using this clock, the higher the fee is. That is around 8,000 that we pay each year. So the total cost, the annual cost that we would have to pay for this vendor, we are currently paying them. I would say it runs about, so we're about 80,000 a year for the user, and then another 60,000, so 140, 150,000 each year for the maintenance and the use and the support for this time and attendance system.
But that's not changing.
Correct, that wouldn't be changing.
So the point is, we are upgrading our clocks for the 225,000. That's a capital item, I would assume.
Yes,
Okay, but the operating cost, it's a one-time cost, Greg. The operating cost for the service is built into our operating budget. And I think what Shitsune was pointing out was because we are an ongoing client of this company that got acquired by another company and they have a strong incentive to keep us, we are getting these clocks at a discount without the installation fees. And we just want the approval for that now.
Thank you for the clarification. I was thinking that it was, 225 for 5 years, and it's not. It's just the fit up costs. And then the ongoing annual cost is already baked into our budget. Got
We
it.
just saved you $1 million. Those 4 additional years that you thought we had to pay.
Okay,
Hello.
Councilmember Revlis, did you have any questions?
I don't, just the LOL on the last comment.
Okay. Okay, great. So, one question I have. You mentioned that the company that we currently were using was bought out. Were we looking to change companies, or did we have an option, or this kind of is just a situation that was brought on to us?
yeah, it's probably the latter. It's a situation that was brought on to us. We did go out to RFP to look at other, vendors out there. And, when we got the proposal back, it's just the fee was higher than expected, that's all. And, I think with Andrew Technology being bought out by UKG, that's an advantage to us because we're saving on the implementation costs, and also, having that vendor knowing our system already, knowing our rules and policy. I think that's kind of like both a win for us.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no further questions, so this item will move to the full council for review and approval on the Tuesday, September 26th council meeting.
Thank you.
Great. Before we adjourn, our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Dakowitz, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add or comment on?
No, thank you. I'm spoken out.
Okay,
So I could do my thing now?
yes,
Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
yes, thank you. All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
We
Aye.
stand adjourned. Thank you for your participation. Great. Have a great rest of the evening.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.